My dad left China. There was not a lot of people taking Chinese immigrants back then, in the late 40s-ish. So my dad fled to different countries, and he ended up in Brazil. But his ultimate goal was always to be in America. The first time I came, and I stayed 1 year with my dad. So it was 1973. I was 8 years old. So I moved with my dad for 1 year, and then I went back home to Brazil, and then back in 1975. So I've been here since January 10th, 1975. Since 1975, obviously the Asian community has grown a lot, tremendously. I mean, there were in 75, for instance, Garden Grove was not yet a big Asian community. Westminster wasn't that big, but now if you fast forward, when I moved to Newport Beach in 1973, I was probably the only non-white in my in the school system. I was here without my brothers, so when I went to school, everybody was Caucasian. There was no Asian, no African American, no Latino American. It was just me, Ed. I grew up surfing. I've been surfing all my life. My brothers and I've always, been. And back then, by the way, being Asian, it was very rare to see other Asians surfing. And then not only that, my mom and dad letting us surf. All the other families thought that we were all crazy. My mom and dad were crazy for letting us be in the ocean. They thought it was a waste of time. I'm in the restaurant business, so all the restaurants were shut down overnight, and that was, we're still it's gonna take years to recover the shutdown. I mean, it was probably necessary to shut down the United States, but our sales went down like 83%. So it's almost miles and not just close the door because you're not making any money at that point. And then there was a little bit more racism than normal. But so not a good place to be. It wasn't a good time to be more Chinese probably than any other race. But to the rest of the world, it didn't matter whether you're Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, you were Chinese at that point. Everybody was Chinese. You're like, the Chinese virus, it didn't help us at all. Personally, wasn't attacked. None of my family members were, but we got a couple of phone calls and left messages on our company voicemail to go home, kind of a thing. And I was shocked. I was shocked. So, but I didn't, they just left a voicemail. So my parents are elderly, locked down in a predominantly Caucasian neighborhood without other Asian contact. Only the phone. We don't allow any of the other people to come into their house. My mom is 89, my dad is 88. So we don't let any visitors in their house. So that's been really hard for my mom and dad. Me, I go to work every day, so it's not as bad. So, and I hope that it does not happen ever again in America where we have to shut down based on a virus, because this was not good for America, but we learned a lot. And that's what's important, right? That your generation hears about it and learn how to make sure that when we do have something like this happen again, you're much more prepared. I'm really proud now. We've always been proud of being Asian, obviously, but now it's a community that's growing. We're taking, we're just doing so much more better because I think we're uniting as a community. It's not. I don't think we look at each other as much as Chinese, Korean. We look at one first, and then of course we divide ourselves when we talk to one another, and that's. So I think now more than ever, our community is more globally oriented as Asians. America is the land of opportunity. It's a great country. But if you forget some of the values that you started out, because everybody in America was an immigrant sometime or the other, but then they lost their values of hard work. I want my kid to work really hard, but I also want them to go vacation. But I want them to have the values of being Chinese. Everybody goes, well, you always think you're Brazilian. Of course, I always think I'm Brazilian, but I'm not silly. I wake up every morning, I know I'm Chinese. The blood in my vein is Chinese blood. My heart happens to be Brazilian. So I have a dual, thing that I want my child to remember. But his core value, I want him to be what my parents gave to me. I want him to always remember that and not to forget our values. It's important to be American, but it's just as important to be who you are And my kid is Chinese, Japanese, American. And that I think is so important for every child to know who they are, know where they come from, and because that's going to make them a better person, I think.